right, good morning, good afternoon, or good evening. Good Lord, this is going to be our 9th video for What Have I Become? Today we will focus again on these two problems, problem number 1 and 4. We will better understand the other problems, but we'll spend the most time thinking about chemistry and how cells are involved with chemistry, and just thinking about our own bodies and what's going on in our own bodies to keep us healthy. So follow along. This is slide 42, introducing you to our next focus, which is chemical bonding. And it's all about atoms coming together. Here's some jokes for you. Sharing is caring. Oh yes, a covalent bond is sharing electrons between two atoms. And here we have an alcohol molecule. Once illegal in our country at one time, believe it or not. It's called prohibition. Alcohol, this simple molecule made up of carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen, is the source of a lot of overdoses, a lot of addiction, a lot of involvement in parties. And all it is carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen. Don't give in to peer pressure, ladies and gentlemen, and take care of your bodies. All right, let's keep moving. Let's think about molecules. Slide 43 is titled Rank Your Mates. Now, in your notebook, please write slide 43. So in your notebook, write slide 43, and you're going to answer this question. First of all, it says larger organisms are made up of more chemically bonded atoms than a smaller individual. So someone this size will be made up of more atoms than someone this size. The bigger you are, the more atoms make you. The smaller you are, the fewer atoms make your body or make your cells. So you decide. It says explain if it's fair to bully or pick on an individual who is made up of fewer atoms than you. Do you think it's fair for someone bigger, made of more atoms, to pick on or bully someone made of fewer? And then down here you can just use this sentence frame if you want. You can say it's blank, fair or not fair, to what? Because blank. And it's all about picking on or bullying. So in this blank right here, you just write pick on or bully, because, and blank. All right, let's watch some cool TED Talk video available on YouTube. We're going to check out this link. Let's start looking at some of the atoms and kind of what they look like when they start forming these chemical bonds that make our cells and make our bodies. This is all about how atoms bond, and they spend some time talking about different forms of bonds, but we're just going to talk about covalent bonds. That is when two atoms share electrons. So let's check it out and let's see how this goes. It says they can actually share each other's electrons. You can see right here. You have the electrons and then the positive charge of the center nucleus, and they're just sharing and they've formed a bond. They're close together, and it's all because they're sharing the electrons in between themselves. And these kind of bonds are what shapes even these super complex molecules like DNA, is just the fact that we have some atoms bonding together. You can see that there's a lot of complex structures that form. You can get C5H10N2O3, huge molecules, or just very small ones. And here's a much larger molecular structure. You can see C7H5N3O6, all based on sharing electrons. Now, all these atoms have important functions in our bodies. And just to pause the video, they're called molecules, right? But they come in all shapes and sizes, and they have all different numbers of bonds. Our bodies have learned to use certain molecules to build certain important things in our body and the parts of our cells. All right, let's see where this great graphic video takes us. We'll watch it a little longer. You can see O2 is a very important molecule we bring into our body all the time. But then you have things like a human chromosome. Human chromosome is technically a massive molecule, like this one, number 13. And awesomely enough, each chromosome is made up of around 37 billion atoms. So you can see you can have a simple molecule like oxygen, O2, just 2 atoms, or you can have something astonishingly large made up of 37 billion atoms, making these super complex structures like a chromosome. All right, let's write down the official definition for chemical bonding. It's been a long time coming, so it's slide 44. In your notebook, please write slide 44, and then copy down this definition for chemical bonding. Joining of atoms to form new substances. Good. Chemical bonding also is the nucleus of each atom pulling the other electrons close and holding them. As you see in this picture, you can see 2 atoms holding themselves together because they have a common attraction between the protons of the nucleus and the electrons. They're drawn or attracted together, and they bind or hold close together. All right, now for slide 44, make sure that you answer question 1 and 2. I'll help you do it. Question 1 is answered. You fill in these blanks, so you'd copy down these sentences, and then fill in the blanks using these 3 words: electron, nucleus, and chemical bonding. Decide which of these 3 words goes in each blank. It says the oxygen atom's blank attracts the hydrogen atom's blank. So if you're confused about what to write, just look at this example right here, this picture of a chemical bond forming. And then it says the attraction forms a what? In fact, I'm going to change the tense of this word to chemical bond. Hint, the attraction forms a chemical bond. All right. Number 1 is also helped if you look at this example. This is example 1 right here. So you have the hydrogens and then you have the oxygen. They form a water molecule through a reaction. So because the chemical bonds occur, because the hydrogens bond to the oxygen, it's called a chemical reaction, and it makes that new substance, the water molecule. This is for number 1. Number 2 focuses on this right here, and you have a carbon in the middle bonded to 4 hydrogens on the outside. So it's CH4, or carbon, and then 4 hydrogens. Now the carbon and these 4 hydrogens are sharing electrons at different points. What you have to do is identify at region A, region B, region C, and region D here what is happening. Is it identifying, does region A, B, C, or D identify a positive charge? Does it identify a negative charge or the presence of a negative charge? Or do these 4-letter areas identify the attraction between negative and positive charges? In other words, does it represent a chemical bond? So in your notebook, for number 2, write A equals, B equals, C equals, and D equals, and decide, do you think it represents a positive charge, a negative charge, or a chemical bond represented with these 2 arrows? Let's see if I can help you with A. In example A, it shows where the electrons are being shared between the carbon and the hydrogen. The carbon and the hydrogen both have positive charged nucleuses, and they both want electrons. They're sharing them. A represents a chemical bond. So I would choose this symbol right here. For A, I would write A equals, and then I would draw this representing a bond, where you have 2 arrows labeled as a negative and positive charge attraction, a chemical bond. Next you have B. You have to decide, what are these particles that the 2 atoms are sharing? Are they sharing a positive charge? Are they sharing negative charges? Or is it a bond right here? C, what is in the center of the carbon atom? Is it an overall positive charge, negative charge, or is the center of an atom represented by a chemical bond? Charge attractions. And then then finally you have D, which is showing a connection between the carbon and the hydrogen. So does the letter represent a positive charge, a negative charge, or does D, showing the connection here between the carbon and the hydrogen, does that represent a chemical bond? Go ahead and choose and decide what you think, and of course we'll discuss it later in class to make sure we have the right thinking and the right answers. But for now in your notebook, make sure you answer both 1 and 2, and try your best using these symbols and the letters. All right, ladies and gentlemen, next up we have the official definition of molecule. So in your notebook, write slide 45. So in your notebook, write slide 45 and copy down the definition for molecule. It says it's formed when atoms share electrons. A molecule is when 2 or more atoms are chemically bonded, like the 2 atoms chemically bonded here. A molecule equals living organisms are made up of 4 basic molecules. So the 4 basic molecules that make up living things are proteins, carbohydrates, lipids, and nucleic acids. So 4 complex but different molecules make up living organisms. Whether you're a cat, a human, or a jellyfish, or even a single-celled bacteria, you're made up of these 4 main molecules. All right, next up, in your notebook for slide 45, you are going to write down these bullet points, and you're going to say a protein equals blank number of bonds. We'll do this one together. We'll do proteins together. Then you're going to say a nucleic acid equals blank number of bonds. So you're going to count up how many bonds make up a nucleic acid. That's right. Then you're going to look at the carbohydrate and count up how many bonds make the carbohydrate. And then finally, you're going to look at the lipid. Yes, it's very big. And you're going to count how many bonds make up a lipid. So right now, if you're ready, go ahead and pause it and try to do it. But I will do protein with you. I see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 total bonds. Remember, the bonds are represented in the straight lines, so the lines connecting the 2 atoms. Nucleic acid. Just to start, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35 total bonds to make a nucleic acid. I wonder if I messed up. All right, you now count the number of connecting line bonds for carbohydrate and lipids. All right, give it your best shot. I made it a little bigger on this slide if you want to count how many carbohydrate bonds are here and how many lipid bonds are here. So if you want, pause this and then count them just so it's a little easier to see. All right, just to keep us learning about this idea, this concept of modeling or making a model, here's 4 different models to represent the same molecule of sugar. You can see they all have different values. They all have different uses. But all of them are technically models of glucose or sugar. Interesting, right? And if you looked at each one, you can kind of see the different value of each. You can look at this picture and count bonds. You can also tell which elements or atoms make up the bonds. If you look at this, you can tell the shape, overall 3-dimensional shape of the glucose molecule. Here, it's 2-dimensional, but it kind of shows the space that each atom takes up to make the molecule. And you can kind of see a repeating structure with it. And then here, of course, you see a little more detail, and it has a key to tell you which elements. We're going to continue making models in our class, so I hope you enjoy taking a break from so much writing. Have a good day, and we'll continue on slide 48 together.